In the quiet stillness of the apartment, Lucas sat alone in the dimly lit living room, his eyes fixed on the table he had so carefully prepared. 2 plates untouched. Candles, now reduced to wax puddles. The once warm dinner had long gone cold, just like the growing distance in the air between him and Amelia. From the bathroom, the sound of the shower running echoed through the silence. She had barely said a word when she walked in. No explanation. No apology. Something was off, deeply, unmistakably off. The next morning, the unease lingered like a storm cloud in Lucas's chest. While Amelia was in the shower again, her phone vibrated on the nightstand. A message flashed across the screen, brief but electric. Can't stop thinking about last night. See you at work. D. Lucas froze. A slow, icy wave of realization crept through him. His fingers curled into fists, breath catching. D. His mind raced. He thought he knew her colleagues, thought he understood the world she moved in. And then a name surfaced in his mind like a curse. Dominic Renault, her boss. Charismatic, commanding, the kind of man who made people listen without raising his voice. Lucas had met him once, briefly, at a company party. Amelia had stood beside him, smiling. And Dominic had looked at her with eyes that held something more than professional interest. Back then, Lucas had brushed it off as his own insecurity. Now, that moment replayed in his head like a haunting. He didn't confront her. Not yet. Something inside him told him to wait, to be smart. That evening, Lucas gently told Amelia he had an overnight work trip, a last-minute meeting in another city. She hesitated, just for a heartbeat, and then nodded. Okay, she said simply. No questions. No worry. No protest. That hurt more than anything else. But Lucas didn't leave town. Instead, he parked his car 2 blocks away from her office building, heart pounding like a war drum. He waited, hour after aching hour, until the city lights blurred into a haze of suspicion and sadness. And then, at nearly 10 p.m., she appeared. Amelia, not alone. Dominic was walking beside her. Lucas's world tilted as he watched from the shadows. She smiled up at the man, her hand gently resting on his chest. Dominic leaned in close, whispering something only she could hear, and Amelia laughed. Softly, intimately. And in that moment, Lucas knew. Something had shattered. As Lucas watched from the shadows, Amelia and Dominic slid into the sleek black car and drove away. With every turn of the wheels, it felt like pieces of his world were being crushed beneath them. Rage flared within him. Wild, uncontrollable, but he forced it down. Not yet. He needed more than suspicion. He needed the truth. He needed proof. He followed. Dominic's car weaved through the city and eventually stopped outside an upscale hotel tucked away on the far side of town. Lucas parked at a careful distance, his pulse pounding so loudly it drowned out his thoughts. He watched Amelia step out, her eyes darting around the street as if she feared being seen. Then Dominic's hand landed on the small of her back, guiding her through the hotel doors like it was something he'd done 100 times before. Lucas couldn't breathe. His wife, pregnant with their child, walking willingly into a hotel with another man. Every muscle in his body screamed to intervene, to rip the truth out of both of them right there. But instead, he raised his phone with trembling hands and snapped a few photos. Evidence. Cold. Undeniable. Then he drove home. He didn't sleep. Not really. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the image of Amelia's smile as she disappeared into the hotel playing on an endless loop behind his eyes. The betrayal was deeper than anything he'd ever imagined possible. It cut through him like ice, quiet and clean, but leaving devastation in its wake. When morning finally arrived, Amelia returned. She walked in as if nothing had happened, her lie already waiting on her lips. The project ran late, she said, rubbing her temples, voice heavy with manufactured fatigue. Dominic got me a hotel room. I didn't want to wake you. Lucas watched her, a storm rising inside him. He could feel the moment building. the confrontation, the collapse. But he wasn't sure if he wanted to hear the lie or make her say it aloud. She moved through the kitchen as if the world hadn't shifted, as if she wasn't standing in the rubble of their marriage. She smiled as she made tea, her hand drifting to her belly, a silent reminder of the child they were supposed to be raising together. "You okay?" she asked gently. Lucas forced a nod, the scream in his chest burning its way up his throat. He wanted to shake her, to plead for the truth. He wanted her to tell him that the baby was his, that she hadn't broken everything. But he knew Amelia. If she had it in her to betray him, she had it in her to lie about it. So he stayed calm.
For now.
"How was work last night?" he asked casually. She paused, barely a second, but enough. "Exhausting," she said, letting out a sigh. "Dominic and I had to finish some reports. He didn't want me driving home so late, so the hotel." A perfect lie.
Smooth. Practiced.
Lucas's hands curled into fists beneath the table. He forced a thin smile. "Sounds like he really looks out for you." Amelia smiled softly, unaware of the blade behind his words. "Yeah, he's a great boss." Lucas nearly laughed. A great boss. His mind flicked back to Dominic's hand on her back, the way she'd leaned into him, the way her fingers had brushed his chest with the familiarity of a lover. He knew he couldn't blow up now. If he let the fury take over, she'd shut down, deny everything. He'd never get the full truth. So he played along. "Hey," he said, masking the tension in his voice. "How about we do something this weekend? Just us. It's been a while." Amelia blinked, surprised, then recovered with a soft smile. "That sounds nice." Lucas nodded, watching her carefully. She had no idea what was coming. That night, while she slept, Lucas sat on the edge of their bed, staring at the photos on his phone. Each image was a crack in the foundation of everything they'd built. But photos weren't enough. He needed more. The next morning, he hired a private investigator. It broke something in him, knowing he had to go to these lengths just to find the truth. But deep down, he already knew what that truth would be. 3 days later, it arrived. The report. Photos. Videos. Screenshots of their text messages. Page after page of the truth. "I can't wait to see you tonight. I wish I could just be with you instead of going home. When he looks at me, I feel so guilty, but when I'm with you, I don't care." Lucas's hands shook as he scrolled through the messages. Each word was a dagger, another fracture in the image of the woman he once thought he knew. And then he saw it. It was the final nail in the coffin, a conversation recorded 2 weeks earlier. "Dominic, are you sure the baby is his?" "Amelia, it has to be, right?" Lucas sat frozen, staring at the screen, the words echoing like gunshots in a cathedral. His pregnant wife wasn't even sure if the child she was carrying was his. The air vanished from his lungs. He had spoken to that child, read bedtime stories to her belly, imagined tiny hands wrapping around his finger. Now, he wasn't even sure if that future was real, or just another illusion in the lie she'd built around him. That night, when Amelia came home, she kissed him softly on the cheek, as if the world hadn't collapsed beneath her feet, as if she wasn't leading 2 lives. Lucas clenched his jaw. "No more games," he said, his voice low and cutting. "I know." She froze. Her purse slipped from her shoulder and landed on the floor with a dull thud. "What?" "I know about you and Dominic," he said. Her face drained of all color. "Lucas, He tossed his phone onto the table. Messages. Photos. Hotel security footage. Every truth she thought she'd hidden was laid bare. Her lips parted, but no words followed. For the first time, she had nothing to say. "You are going to let me raise a child that might not even be mine?" Lucas's voice trembled. "You are going to lie to me for the rest of our lives?" Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Lucas, please. I never meant for this to happen." "Then why did it?" he asked, his voice cracking. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "I don't know. It started with work, long nights, small talk, and then I felt something. Something I hadn't felt in a long time." Lucas's heart clenched. "And what was that?" She wiped her face, voice barely audible. Loved. A bitter laugh escaped him, sharp, broken. Loved, he echoed. You were carrying my child, Amelia. I loved you. I was planning a life with you, a family, and you threw it away for an office affair. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. He shook his head slowly.
No.
You don't get to say that. You don't get to cheat, to lie, and then talk about love. That's not love. That's cowardice. She was silent then, her sobs the only sound in the room. After a long, aching pause, Lucas stood. I need space, he said, hollow. Please, she whispered, reaching out to him. Please don't leave me. He looked down at the woman he had once seen as his forever. Now all he saw was betrayal. I don't even know who you are anymore. And with that, he walked out the door. Lucas drove aimlessly through the city. Lights blurred past him, but he couldn't see them. His mind drowned in the weight of every broken promise, every touch that now felt like a lie. But one question haunted him above all. Was the baby his? Did it even matter anymore? The next morning he returned. Amelia sat on the couch, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked like a ghost of the woman he once knew. I need to know, he said, his voice steady. I need a paternity test. She nodded. Her hands trembled. Okay, she whispered. Okay. A week later, the results arrived. The baby was his. Relief washed over Lucas like rain on scorched earth, but it didn't erase the fire. It didn't heal what had been burned. Amelia begged. She pleaded for another chance. But Lucas knew. He could never look at her the same way again. I'll be there for the baby, he said, his tone firm. But we're done. Tears streamed down her face. But she didn't argue. She couldn't, because deep down she knew she had lost him. As Lucas walked away, he felt the sharp ache of heartbreak clawing at his ribs. But beneath the pain, there was something else. A strange, unfamiliar lightness. Freedom. Sometimes love wasn't enough. Sometimes betrayal didn't offer closure, only endings. And sometimes the end was the beginning,